And yes, it did come at the cost of his daughter, his wife, because I suppose it's fairly common that someone uh, sometimes neglects their family at the cost of their work. But the fact that this was it wasn't just a bank or, an insurance company. It was a woman. It was a person.
Hey everyone, I'm Angelyne with Pop Culture. Today we have Alex Karpovsky, Martin Freeman, and Lukas Gage to talk about Peacock's new series, Angelyne. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. So prior to this series, how familiar were each of you with the myth and the legend and the reality of Angelyne? Anyone a stan or totally unfamiliar?
As a foreigner, I was quite unfamiliar. I had a very hazy recollection of this sort of mythical folklore that was Angelyne, and I got all the rest of my knowledge, which came quite thick and fast, as soon as I signed on to the job. And then I realized it was like suddenly not having heard of Robin Hood or something. It was I went from not knowing it at all to then having a crash course in this amazing phenomenon.
Absolutely. Either of the two of you seen her driving around in her pink Corvette before the series, or?
My experience is similar to Martin's. I grew up on the East Coast, so I was only sort of tangentially familiar with her. But then when I started to spend more time in LA, I started hearing more stories about her, and then eventually I did see her on Sunset Boulevard, and the myth sort of, grew in my mind.
Yeah. What about you, Lukas?
I had seen her around, and then when I got a call back, I set up a meeting with her at Denny's, which I learned later almost sacrificed me the job. But
oh no, really? You were willing to put it all out there.
I was willing to do it all for Angelyne.
Absolutely. Well, Martin, your character has such an interesting relationship with Angelyne, kind of almost at the cost of his own family. How do you personally view that relationship? Father-daughter, romantic, colleagues?
Dysfunctional, I would say. There's no other word for it. I think he seemed to throw everything at the kitchen sink as far as Angelyne was concerned. Once he'd met this person, he was completely dumbstruck by her. And for whatever reasons, be they obvious or not, he just decided to hitch his wagon to this thing. And that this phenomenon, whatever shape it was going to take. And yes, it did come at the cost of his daughter, his wife, because I suppose it's fairly common that someone sometimes neglects their family at the cost of their work. But the fact that this was it wasn't just a bank or, an insurance company. It was a woman. It was a person, So I think that it was far more easy for his family to feel sidelined, because he is actually, he's choosing to spend his time and his focus on a person who isn't either his wife or daughter. So that's a bold choice on his part. Yeah.
It was a bold choice, and it was multifaceted. How did you kind of prepare for that?
Well, I suppose I looked at footage a lot. I looked at footage, tried to get some semblance of a voice, and then put on a wig.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's my main
That's half
thing.
the battle.
Wiggery, yeah.
Yes, of course. Well, and Alex and Lukas, both of your characters are really just determined to discover the truth about Angelyne against her will, basically. What do you think it is that really drives the motivation for each of them to really just get down to the bottom of it?
Well, the deep-rooted mystery that envelops this character. It's very hard to kind of maintain a sense of enigma and uncertainty about your past, especially today. But Angelyne somehow did it. And so I think what motivated my character is a reporter at a journalist at the Hollywood Reporter. And I think he was determined to kind of figure out her past, how she invented and reinvented herself, how she put up all these billboards, and just get down to the bottom of it. So the sense of sort of mystery, I think, is what really motivated my character.
I think for my character, his motivation was success and to make a name for himself as a filmmaker, and to make a name for himself like Angelyne made a name for herself, and inspired by her tenacity and her hard work ethic. I think he so desperately wanted to be successful and famous.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and in the show, the idea of Angelyne as this kind of Rorschach test for each individual is brought up. What do each of you see when you look at her and look at the phenomenon?
An icon.
Mm-hmm.
A legend, a self-made queen, sex symbol.
Mm-hmm.
It's a funny one. Again, it's the sort of thing that there's many things about which you can say only in America, and I think she's one of them. You know, for good and bad, only in America definitely applies to a lot of things, and I can't see that happening many other places, to be honest, where someone's just going to decide to be whatever she is so successfully. You know, I guess it's that the root of the thing that we all talk about. We've all talked about for the last 20 years about that thing of being famous for being famous, and she sort of she was the sort of archetype of that, I guess.
Absolutely, she's the blueprint.
Kind of, yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, I also see her as sort of a portrait or mosaic of LA in many ways. She's such a reflection of the city itself, and she kind of captures the extremes of the city, the sort of glamour, the spectacle, the fame, but also kind of the darkness and sort of the shallowness of the city. And I think she kind of carries that contradiction and tension of the city herself. She's very much an extension of the city's dual sort of psychology.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and do you have any of you have any kind of strong ideas what it is that keeps people coming back and looking into this mystery, even though it's been quote unquote solved?
Well, the fact that she was one of the first people to kind of brand her own personality rather than a movie or an album, I think is going to be very appealing to some people. This is the OG, before people like Kim Kardashian. And she did it in an analog world. It was much harder to pull off. She needed to kind of use different tools and require a lot more hustle and seduction. And I think that's going to be I think it's always kind of interesting to go to sort of the origin story of things before people kind of refined and perfected the techniques. So I think that'll be overnight for some people.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I can't wait for everyone to see it. It is just such a good series, and I appreciate your time.